Hello, my name is Christopher, and you might remember me from that one Impromptunes podcast where I got given executive producer credit for commenting on a Facebook post. You should really check out Impromptunes, they're quite good, but this isn't a sponsored video, so I'm not going to go any more into that. So we're going to be continuing our study following Michael Frost's Surprise the World. Unfortunately, the videos are only covering the final 3 missional habits of highly missional people, but it's a book that's worth checking out. I'll put a link below for anyone who might not have necessarily gotten the book. The 5th habit in Michael Frost's book is sent. That is, we are sent to evangelize, to be missionaries, but I want us to remember that being a gifted evangelist and evangelizing in our lives are not necessarily the same thing. In Luke chapter 8 verse 16, no one lights a lamp and hides it in a jar or puts it under a bed. That would be a massive fire hazard. He puts it on a stand so that those who come in see the light. And that's sort of what evangelizing is. We don't need to be going out of our way to evangelize people as our profession, as an evangelist. But we're also not meant to be a submarine Christian who submerges at the first sign of trouble and just sort of watches everything with a periscope. We should be living and evangelizing and having those habits of missional people, no matter where we are. And Michael Frost's book quite helpfully gives us 4 ways that we can really think about living in a way that reflects God's mission for us. Reconciliation. It's important to remember that God is reconciled to us through Christ. We messed up and had a broken relationship with God, but Jesus made that relationship better again. And in that same way, if God was prepared to sacrifice his son to be reconciled to us, we should also be looking to reconcile ourselves with others, both on a big scale with things like Reconciliation Week and NIDOC Week, but even on a small scale with personal relationships that have fallen apart for either person's fault. It doesn't need to be someone's fault, sometimes it just happens, but taking that step to try to reconcile with others is really a reflection of what it is that God has done for us. Romans chapter 12 verse 18. As much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. You've got to be prepared to reconcile with someone. Of course, reconciliation's a 2-way street. In the same way that God can be reconciled to us through Christ, we have to accept Christ's sacrifice for that to happen. If somebody doesn't think that the relationship is broken or doesn't want to return to that relationship as friends or as anything, then you can't force that. All you're called to do is to, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with everyone. Justice. I'm not saying you necessarily should be Batman. I'm saying you definitely shouldn't be the Joker from that weird Telltale spin-off, which is actually really good. Sorry, I will stop there, not a sponsored video. The point that I want to get at is, you could be someone like Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King, fighting injustice on the front line, but you don't have to be some big figurehead for people to jump behind. Some people just aren't that personality type, and that doesn't make you less Christian. You can't be less Christian. But you can help fight for justice in small ways. Signing petitions, funding clean water in impoverished nations, donating food to homeless shelters, maybe even letting homeless people into your home. There are ways you can fight injustice without needing to be an extroverted figurehead. Matthew chapter 25 verse 40. Whatever we do for the least of people, we do for God. God wants us to be looking out for those who aren't in well-off situations. And right now, there are probably a lot of them. And I think it's good for us to be thinking about what can we do to fight against these injustices in the world. Beauty. Beauty salons are obviously closed right now. Pretty sure it's not saying you want to look something like this. I mean, look at me. I'm definitely nowhere near there. It's not necessarily even talking about inward beauty, like someone like Tai Trang from Survivor 34. I mean, he was also in Survivor 31, but I'm also pretty sure that 90% of you don't even know who this amazing man is. Obviously, inward beauty is something that the Bible talks about as being good, but the idea of beauty that Michael Frost talks about is much more about connecting with nature. I'm not sure if you guys have ever sat atop a cliff or a mountaintop during a camp and you just see how beautiful nature is around you. There's a reason people like camps, and that's because that connection with nature and the beauty of the world is something that people can connect with. And the same with art, movies, film, TV shows, physical paintings, I would say video games, that really depends. But the point is that art is something that makes people feel. Church music is a thing that people do because it helps people connect emotionally. Even regular music people can connect with. And I think it's important for us that we don't neglect the beauty of creation or even the beauty of art. It triggers emotional responses in people, so 100% engage with it. Be an artist, make music, make pictures, put 100% of your effort into any sort of art and really make that time to connect with the beauty of the world and the beauty of God's creativity that He's given us in things that we ourselves can create. Psalm chapter 8, verses 3 to 4. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them, human beings that you care for them? Art is a reflection of the artist, and so someone can look at your art and go, why have they put this in there? Wholeness. Wholeness is essentially bringing people comfort, making people whole in their times of struggle, be it physical healing, emotional healing, or spiritual healing. Being there for people and knowing what we can do to support them. Right now, there's probably a lot of emotional and spiritual pain going on, and figuring out where we can be in that space. But it's not even necessarily about that. Being able to pray for wholeness in people, bringing people at peace. We see all the time in the Bible miraculous healings, and it's important that if we really don't know what we can do, we can always pray. And if we live out these 4 ideas, reconciliation, justice, beauty, and wholeness, those 4 things are practical ways that we can live like people sent from God.